The PRovoke Podcast, brought to you by PRovoke Media and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers.
Hello everyone and welcome to the PRovoke Media podcast. I'm Maja Pawinska Sims, the EMEA editor of PRovoke, and I'm joined here live in London for a change at the studios of our compadres and marketeers by my very good friend Tom Berry, UK Managing Director of MikeWorldWide. Tom returned to agency life last summer after a 4-year break, I think, to become a GCSE and A-level teacher, which makes him very much one of the good guys. Before that, he'd been CEO and then chair of B2B tech specialist agency Chameleon, which he and co-owner Tom Buttle sold to MWW in 2021. Tom is also a non-exec director and trustee of several amazing organisations, including Mental Health First Aid, the Employers Network for Equality and Inclusion, and is an independent member of the Council of King's College London, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Beza, welcome.
Hello, Maya. How are you?
You're all right.
You make me sound like a terrible teacher. So I was a teacher and I wasn't very good at it. And here I am now in the studio with you.
No, I think we're just grateful that you returned as an industry. I've made you out to sound like a grown up and a very serious person. And I know those things are both true, but also I know one of the things you hate most about the PR industry. And one of the reasons possibly why you left us in the first place is that you don't like people who take PR very seriously. Is that right?
Yes and no. I like all people. If you happen to not like PR very much, it doesn't mean I hate you. It just means I am deeply skeptical about your the way you think about the world. Look, PR is a means to an end, and I think we can talk about this maybe more later on. But there is a certain school of thought in PR that it's just there to make rich people richer and evil people look less bad. And if people decide that that's what they want to do with their lives and they're going to run their agencies, and I only really know agency, I haven't really worked in-house that often, I think that in itself is problematic because the whole reason why you do a job, whether it's PR or anything else, has to be some form of positive purpose. And so everyone who talks about PR as being that's what I do, that's what I studied, that's what I'm into, that's what I get a job in, it comes with a lot of baggage of I'm trained in a certain way to talk in a certain way and think about PR in a certain way, which I don't necessarily agree with.
So what's your, what do you think PR is for then?
PR is for, right, I'm going to say this without trying to sound really contrived and cliched. PR is there for a purpose of conveying and telling a story to get people interested in what you're doing. It is there to change a heart and mind. It is there to defend the people who need defending. It is not there to defend the indefensible. And so PR at its very best helps disadvantaged people, whether they're covered by the Equalities Act or not, to have a voice. PR is there to get small companies that want to disrupt an industry a better way of talking to their customers and trying to disrupt that industry and break up monopolies. PR is there as a form of supporting democracy. PR is really, really important. But what it isn't there for is just to defend what already exists.
You've mentioned purpose a couple of times. Yeah. I think that your alignment and support of the various non-profits and educational institutions that you've been supportive of kind of underlines that. Is that how hard is it for you to continue as a supporter of those organisations, which are very 100% purpose-driven, at the same time as leading a PR agency?
It's not hard at all. It's very easy because we work with organisations such as Young Enterprise, for example, right? Which its whole job used to be to help grammar school kids win awards. Their job now, and what we're trying to help them do, is help kids who are pupil premium and who have free school meals to get in touch with business and come up with new ideas and harness all of that potential they have. That's not hard as an agency. It's just about being an agency that will embrace that sort of difficult conversation with an organisation. And luckily, most clients and most CEOs of clients want to have that conversation at the moment.
So how does all the stuff that you really hold dear personally tie into the way MikeWorldWide's vision and values translate into the real world and the world of business and comms that you're in?
Yeah, well, MikeWorldWide's an independent agency, and that's important. I like independent agencies. I like working for them, and that's the reason why I sold my agency to MikeWorldWide in the first place. They're an independent agency that shares my values, so people-first style values. The other thing that MikeWorldWide does is that they are very, very good, and I'm still learning this, and it's something I've learned a lot while I've joined them. I'm still learning about how technology works in a business, how AI works in a business, how the different tools work, and being a medium-sized independent agency, albeit global, that's given us an awful lot of access to an awful lot of different thinking, creative thinking. So that's been very good. And the other one is just they're nice people. All right, if you're working in an agency, you're going to spend more time in your job than you do with your family. You've got to like the people you work with. And, MikeWorldWide's an agency where people are good people.
I remember from when I used to come into Chameleon and we do our Agency of the Year meetings every year before you sold up. And I was always really impressed by how much emphasis you put on the team and looking after your people. We're in a people business, right? Do you think how easy is it to forget that that's what PR is all about?
How easy is it to forget? Very easy. How difficult is it to be a leader? Very difficult. The problem is the pressures of agency, and I think I've said this before, is that, the thing is, when you're working in an agency, the highs are really, really high and the lows are really, really low. And in general, they all happen on the same day. So you're on a fucking roller coaster. We're podcasts, right? We're not Ofcom regulated.
No, swearing is fine.
I can say fuck, can't I? It's fine. Okay. Right. So look, you're in that situation where shit happens and it's really bad, and then great things happen and it's really good, and you asking your people to navigate that every single day. So when you're an agency, and when you're a leader in an agency, you're running an agency, the first thing that I think is important is you have to give people the ability to say, this isn't cool, I don't like it, I'm not enjoying it, but also give them a vision that says, this is the reason why we're doing it. And if you can do those things and sort of manage it in, the same way, and then ask your leadership team to behave in the same way you would like them to behave, then that's all good. I sort of give you an example. It was only 2 days ago where I was in the office, and one of the people I've worked with for a very long period of time, and she's an absolutely wonderful member of staff. Her name is Harriet. Thank you, Harriet. She said to me, the thing about you, Tom, is you don't actually run this agency.
Okay. Is that is she throwing shade? Or is that
No. But we were talking about it. She said, the thing is, you're a figurehead for an agency. You don't run it. We run it. All of us. Our middle management team run this agency. We do all the work. We make everything happen. You just happen to be the person that tells us where to go. And that was an interesting thing to say. And she's right. And I think as soon as you're running an agency and you think actually you're running it, you're probably lost. So you need people like Harriet in your life.
That requires an absence of ego, though, doesn't it?
No.
Does it not?
No, you've got to have ego as well. Because you can't survive as a leader of business without ego.
Okay.
Because you have to have an ego. You have to be able to go out there. You have to be able to go and win business. You have to go and be able to talk. You have to be on a podcast like this. And so I think you have to have an ego. It's just, it's an ego that doesn't impinge on other people's personalities, lifestyles, what they want to do, their jobs. Okay. So, yeah, you have to have an ego.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'm a journalist, so you've got to love a byline. Tell me, like, we're talking about leadership. How do you think the challenges of leadership have changed over the past few years? I'm thinking kind of pre and post pandemic, like you kind of exited and came back from the agency leadership role during that whole time. Do you think it's more difficult or more complex to be a leader in comms now than it was 5 years ago?
No. Only because, and you alluded to this earlier, I teach business and I was a journalist before, and I spend an awful lot of my time thinking that Peter Drucker, the great management writer, is God, right? And Peter Drucker basically said that it's all about people, it's very complex, and the knowledge worker is a term that he coined, is the be-all and end-all leadership. I don't think any of that has changed. So yes, okay, the physical manifestation of the office has changed. Where people have worked might have changed. Technology might have changed. We might have had an enforced digital revolution in terms of the way that we use Zoom or Teams or whatever it is, right? You know, Google, you know, if people still use that sort of stuff, right? So that has changed. The physical manifestation of the office has changed. But the knowledge worker, the people who work in it, I don't think has changed at all. So I don't think there are many more challenges. I think people's expectations of work have changed, but I'm not sure that's because of COVID.
What do you put that down to? Is that generational?
Again, I could say yes and no to that, because I could say yes and then I could go and vote reform and say, you know, here we are, you know, it's young people are the problem and old people are the great and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's much more complicated than that. I think that, you know, we have groups of young people who are full of brilliant ideas and fed amazing amounts of information, and they express it in their own way in their own time. What they don't want is an organisation that's fundamentally organised. Most organisations that are sort of good are fundamentally disorganised. And so you probably need to create an organisation, in my view anyway, where you have a certain level of disorganisation where people can express their ideas and do their things and go home and spend time with whatever they do. So I don't think it's generational in that sense. There might be obviously an element of that. Look, if I were working in engineering, I would say, yes, there's a generational issue. Because you've got huge numbers of people, right, who are in their 60 plus, who have immense amounts of knowledge, who are about to exit an industry where we don't have enough people joining the industry who have that knowledge. That's a knowledge transference generational problem. I don't think PR has the same thing.
What do you think are the big challenges then for agency leaders, in-house comms leaders now, like looking to the next couple of years? You've already mentioned AI. I mean, that comes up a lot in the conversations I have. What do you think are the biggies?
The great thing about AI is you can talk about it forever without having any proof.
Yeah,
so we could all go, AI is great, AI is terrible, let's talk about AI. And you'll never come to a conclusion because none of us really have the proof points to say whether it works or not. It's brilliant at asking questions, and I find that AI is wonderful if you talk to it like a human being. If you get ChatGPT 4 and talk to it as if you're imagining you're talking to someone down the pub, right? It's phenomenal because you can just say, look, I've got this thing, I've got this document, I've got this client, I've got this issue, and in a closed system, I would like you to give me some ideas about it. And they'll come back, right? And they go, okay, tell me a bit more about that one. And it's absolutely awesome, right? But that's not a challenge. That's just a massive opportunity. We just haven't started using it properly. The bigger challenges for PR is the same challenges that PR has been wrestling with for its entire existence, from time memorial, from my time in PR and perhaps yours, which is, why are we here?
Okay, that's existential.
How do we justify our existence? What are we here to do, especially in a world which is geopolitically quite charged? Are we there just to fight one corner? Are we there to defend one side of the polarised debate, whether it's business, whether it's political, whether it's social? Or are we there to do what we talked about earlier, which is to have a purpose and do good things and bring people an opportunity and equity and all those good things and positivity to bear? And I hope it's the latter. And the more we can do that, I think the better.
What do you think are the biggest threats to PR agencies at the moment?
That's a good question. The biggest threats. What type of PR agency, Maya?
I mean, I just think there's lots of question marks at the moment about whether the PR agency model actually works. There's questions about whether the pitch processes work. There's questions about whether the billing model works. It's like what's going to disrupt things
Okay. PR agencies essentially are businesses, right? And they have invented these structures, and people write books about them, that says how you should bill and how you should pitch and what best practice looks like and what measurement should look like. And we can debate these forever, but essentially they're businesses. So the biggest threat to a PR agency is the same threat to any business. How quickly can you adapt to the changing environment? So I don't think PR per se is under threat. I just think it hasn't changed very much. And I would like to see PR agencies, and this is what I'm going to do tomorrow with my team. So tomorrow we have our half one off-site, which is on-site, ironically. Costs, those sorts of things.
Course.
I've given you all the money for this podcast. And so, we're going to just talk about what it is we're going to do differently next half. Even if it's one or two or three different things, and buying yourself that amount of time. What PR has not done is it hasn't fundamentally changed. It talks about changing, it talks about measurement, it talks about technology. It hasn't fundamentally changed. So the big question is, do we need to? And if so, how? And I'm not sure.
That's a really big conversation, isn't it?
Yes.
I tried to engage you earlier in some football chat and you weren't buying it because you're a cricket fan. I know you're a big fan of a cliche and an analogy.
Well, it's a game of two halves. Right?
What can PR learn from cricket?
That it takes time. What can PR learn from Test cricket is the question you really want to ask, Maya, there. PR, again, is just a thing. It's just a label. It's like, what can mining or what can banking or what can any other industry you think of learn from anything? The answer is nothing. What businesses can learn is they can learn that if you take time and think about things in a really good way and put the right people in the right places and try to get your management team really motivated behind a goal, be it Bazball or be it, winning the European Cup or whatever it might be, that is a good thing to do. You just need to put the pieces in place to allow it to happen. So cricket is an absolutely wonderful sport, but it's slow. But it takes a lot of effort and a lot of practice and a lot of the right people in place to do it in order to make it sort of work. And now I'm going round and round in circles thinking about cricket because I went to Jimmy Anderson's last ever test and I'm still quite emotional about it.
Oh, yeah. Bless you. The other thing I know you love is music.
Yeah.
Tell me what do you listen to that kind of inspires you in a work context? Is there any overlap between the stuff you listen to and play at home and the way you feel about the business?
Oh, gosh. The answer is probably no, and I'm not being very helpful to you there. But I cannot work without music.
Really?
So I'm quite ADHD in the way that undiagnosed in the way that I operate, and I need noise all the time, and so I have to have music all the time. I have to have noise all the time. I have to have people around me all the time, and the worst possible thing is probably a lot of people's happiest place is being on my own at home in quiet.
Oh my God, that's like my dream.
It's like the worst thing ever. So I have to have music playing. So this morning when I was writing a document for a client, I was listening to Slayer, and I was doing it very deliberately because I've got an 8-track player at the moment for the young people amongst us. It is a precursor cassette, and I was thinking I've got one blank 8-track cartridge, and I was thinking, what's the most incongruous thing I could record onto an 8-track cartridge and then put it in my car? And I was thinking Rain in Blood by Slayer. So that's what I was listening to this morning.
Okay. I don't get the working with noise in the background thing. I just can't think. It's like you can't think unless there's the background distraction.
Yeah. So I can't go. So my wife, Soraya, is a librarian, right? And I cannot go into a library, and this is going to sound really, really dramatic, but I can't go into a library because my head screams at me.
Okay.
Because all of my head is talking to me all the time. So when you are ADHD-like, you go into a very quiet space and the whole thing is talking to you all the time.
So it's too much. That's actually overwhelming silence.
The silence is awful. I cannot deal with it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. But you have to understand these things, right? So when I work with ENEI, the Employers Network for Equality and Inclusion, we talk about neurodiversity a lot in terms of how you run a business. So, you may well have people who like to work in silence. You may well have people who want to work with noise. You may well, and the biggest argument that's always in any agency of the last 25 years I've been working on them is, are you hot or cold in terms of the air conditioning, right? You have to understand different people's motivations.
Do you think there's a lot of... I did a big piece about neurodiversity a couple of years ago in the industry, and the consensus from those who have been diagnosed and are dealing with all sorts of spectrum disorders and trying to, and are in fact manifesting them as superpowers in the way they approach the comms and creative industries. The consensus was there's probably an awful lot of undiagnosed neurodiversity in the creative industries in particular.
Yeah.
Do you think that's true?
Goes with the territory. Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to get people who are neurodiverse in creative industries.
It does make you think though, what's normal though now? Like everyone,
we are getting existential.
No,
now.
but we're all recognising difference so much more than we used to. And appreciating difference as part of the whole diversity and inclusion conversation, which makes it, I guess, more challenging to run a business where you're having to kind of tune in to everybody, but also more gratifying because you know you're going to get the best out of everybody.
There's another way of looking at it, right? And the other way of looking at it is, rather than acknowledging difference, is thinking about equality and equity. And there's a phrase that ENEI, which I'm a trustee of, uses, which I think is really, really important, which is equality is for everyone. And it doesn't matter whether you are somebody who is labelled or self-labelled or has been labelled by someone else, right? Or whether you are the head of sales or head of an agency or the CEO. None of that stuff matters. Equality is for everybody in that organisation. So if you think about you as a CEO or an agency leader, myself as an agency leader, equality must matter to you because you are going to be different in some way to everybody else. You just happen to be, quote unquote, successful. And so if you think about it in that way and take the labels out of it, you start to think about an agency or a business in a much more sort of wholesome way. I don't want to use the word holistic because it's a horrible word. Wholesome, let's call it.
That's on the list.
Yeah.
No to holistic. A lot of these conversations are driven by younger people coming into the industry, and we've talked a little bit about whether that's a challenge. You obviously totally immersed yourself in the world of teenagers for three or 4 years.
That sounds a bit dodgy.
I didn't mean like that. As a teacher, you spent a lot of time, and I know you've got several kids who have been through the whole teenage process relatively recently. What did you learn from that generation, for being around them, talking to them about business? I know you're also trying to talk to them about comms in the context of business.
Yeah, I actually went back into school last week.
Did you?
Because I can't give it up. And, I love school and I love teaching and I love being around young people. We always call them young. I mean, how young is young? I'm never entirely sure.
I don't
but let's
know.
say, look, right, I teach GCSE and A levels. So we're talking, the ages of 15 to 18. What I love about working with people of that age, and it's the same reason why I love working with people who, interns, for example, or work experience young people and those sorts of people in the agency, is their incessant ability to ask questions, and really stupid ones as well. And as a journalist, right? Sometimes the best questions are the really stupid ones.
Yeah.
Tell me why I don't understand. And when you teach, they tell me why I don't understand. So what? I don't get it. Actually really helps you in agency, because you can ask those questions of your clients. And you'll go into a messaging session, for example, and go, I'm going to ask you some really stupid questions now because I don't understand. And when you work with quote unquote young people over a period of time in school, you realise that's their day job. Your day job is to go, I don't know, or it's in the book, or let's talk about it ourselves. And your reaction to those stupid questions is a great gift, because you can just either make things up or lie to them or teach them stuff. But it's fun.
I feel like I don't know is a very underrated response to questions, stupid or otherwise. I feel like in a polarized world that we're living in, not enough people go for I don't know as a response. I don't know, but I'll find out. I don't know what I think, but let me do some more research. Why don't you tell me what you think?
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think it's also useful in an agency to say that as well. Bringing it back, to PR and being serious about things. Having the I don't know, let's work it out together is the basis of all good creative campaigns. The worst creative campaigns are the ones where people come in and go, hey, let's do this. What if we did this? I've got 5 ideas that I've used for the last 20 brainstorms. Look how good I am. If you go, I don't know, I don't really understand what this is about. Tell me what it's about. And use insight and use technology or whatever it is to help you get to that point of going, okay, I've got some building blocks to work on here. That's really powerful. Also, when you have a certain luxury as a managing director or CEO of an agency to ask difficult questions of managing directors and CEOs of clients, and you say to them, I don't understand what you're doing, you'll often get the conversation back where they go, I don't really know either.
Yeah.
And so when you have that honest conversation, rather than just being an agency goes, here's the things you're doing, here's the 5 things, here's a framework, here are the tried and trusted things we've done, here's a piece of research, off you go. They'll go, yeah, fine. But when you actually go and say, I don't know, I'm not sure, that's where you actually get to the crux of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a really powerful response. I use it a lot, mainly because I don't, there's an awful lot of shit I don't know quite clearly. But interestingly enough, a lot of the times I'm having to pick up the phone and phone agencies when I get a press release and say, explain this to me like I'm an idiot because I don't understand this, they're usually B2B/tech.
Yeah.
And it does sometimes make you think, has the agency team interrogated the client enough to clarify that messaging? Because you're just in Emperor's New Clothes scenario sometimes where the client says something, the agency's accepted it, passed on to the journalist then parrots it and publishes it. And you're like, does anyone here really understand what this acronym is, what this means in the real world?
Sure. And let me guess, all of those press releases say something like this, right? We have today announced an end-to-end scalable platform agnostic solution that will generate leverage and synergy for our audiences in a way that is vanilla flavoured and straight out of the box. And this is why, when we run it up and down the flagpole, you will end up with a greater outcome for clients, which means we're all better decision makers and everyone should be happy. And please write my article.
Yeah, although you missed out the word disruptive. And also delighted.
So delighted, excited and delighted.
Excited and delighted.
The other two, there is a certain dance we dance in PR, and there is a certain expectation, whether it's driven by time constraints or whether it's driven by client requirements or whether it's driven by culture of agencies, that says that you have to dance that dance and say those things, even if deep down you don't really believe it, and that is a tremendous shame. However, you will know this better than I because you're on the end of it, that there are brilliant people in every agency. And it does not matter whether it's a big agency, medium agency, or a small agency, there are brilliant people who will always give you the story because they know it in their head. The job really should be to let those people write the story and sell you the story, again, without selling, in a way that actually works for your audience, because that is what you want. You want your audience, whether it's people in-house or agency leaders or people in the PR industry, to want to write about it in a way that's newsworthy, rather than something that's been written by a committee of people throwing a word salad of messaging together.
I'm a bit worried about, it's not just, I mean, it's linked with AI. I'm a bit worried about the fragmentation, underinvestment and general falling apart of the media and what impact, and combined with the growing prevalence of AI and what that means for those good people in agencies and those journalists who are still thankfully on a payroll. I do worry that we're going to end up stuff that's been written by AI, being published by AI, and then the whole truth piece goes out the window. Are we going to survive as sorry, this has gone very large.
I hate to break it to you, Maja, but in the long run, as John Maynard Keynes says, we're all dead. We're all dead.
But our comms and the media, which are so interlinked forever, right? Are we going to survive? We're going to get through this. Are we going to evolve? Yes. Are you still hopeful and positive?
Because we have done a million times, right?
This is so unlike me to be so negative.
Look. We are in a PR industry that loves to predict the death of things. The death of the CIO, the death of PR, the death of measurement, the death of human beings, the death of journalists, right? This is our job.
Death of democracy.
It's a nihilistic profession that we live in.
It's got so dark.
However, it's not true.
Okay.
Right, because someone once suggested, there was an economist I once knew, that someone said that he's so downbeat, he's and so accurate that he's predicted one of the last 7 of the last 3 recessions or something, right? It's like people who always predict the negative will always be right eventually. People who predict the positive don't get much thanks for it, but actually are more right than the negative people. So yes, AI will come, and yes, AI will change the way that we work as an industry, just as the advertising ratios in journalism, right? You and I were both in journalism in the late 90s, right? In the early 2000s, right? And you think there used to be a 50-50 advertising editorial split, and that's how the model worked.
Yes.
Right? So for every page of editorial, you had to have a page of advertising. That's how the model worked. And when business was good, it was really thick because it was full of adverts that no one looked at. And then all of a sudden, adverts dropped off, but the editorial stayed the same. And people were saying, this is it. It's the death of journalism. Because all of a sudden, it was not sustainable. Well, look what happened, right? We had internet, we had display ads, we had PPC, we had other things that came in and allowed us to, try and make some money out of the thing. And it just evolved. So the fact that we have AI is not going to kill our industry. It's just going to mean we'll change slightly.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That's calmed me down a lot. I wanted, I know you're very, very good at not selling the agency you work for, which is a brilliant little tech agency, global.
Not just tech.
Not just tech, all the other stuff as well.
Lots of consumer, lots of sports, lots of other bits and pieces.
Where are you? I mean, the London outpost was basically formed pretty much with the purchase of Chameleon, your old agency, in 21. I know you had a bit of a presence in London before that.
Yeah, there was a presence. Yeah, I mean, there was a big consumer presence, right? So MikeWorldWide's had a big consumer presence and a lot of sort of ad tech and media work. So we still work for some big media clients. We still work for Sky, we still work for the Sunday Times, so we still do that sort of stuff. And we just brought to bear with the Chameleon stuff quite a lot of tech and B2B stuff. And now we have an agency that does a bit of everything.
So when you speak to your team tomorrow on your whole kind of like, where are we going? What do you think what's the vision? What's the plan for MikeWorldWide's in London and Europe?
We've got quite a lot of momentum, right?
Okay.
We've got quite a lot of good people. We've got quite a lot of good technology. We've got backing of Michael and the whole team over in the US. We have the ability to do what we want to do. We just need to decide what we want to do. So, again, coming back to Harriet, she said, you're not leader, you're a figurehead. Basically, I'm slapped on the front of a ship, and that's my job. What I need to work out before the meeting tomorrow is, what do I want to encourage the team to go and pursue over the next 6 months? And I'll work it out eventually. And so will they.
I feel that'll come back to people and purpose somehow.
It always will. Because that's the fundamental truth, right? The fundamental truth is, a company, it's called a company because it's a group of people. It's a company of people. And so everything has to start with that. If you have good people doing good work and they're happy, you'll have happy clients. And those happy clients will pay you, and that money will then be used to pay your happy people. And it goes round and round in a cycle. The fact that we just happen to do PR is just one of the things that's in that cycle. Yeah,
I think that's a really interesting point to come back to, that maybe not enough people in the industry do. It's like we're just a business. This is a business, and this happens to be what we do, but this is just a business. Yeah, and business is fabulous, right? Business is brilliant. Business pays our wages. Business pays for our pensions. Business is what, the new Labour government wants to promote, right? PR is a huge part of what we're good at in the UK. And we should be doing more of it. We should be starting new businesses. We should be encouraging people to start new PR agencies. We should be thinking about different ways of telling stories. We should be using new technologies. Let's just do more of it. And it will all net out in the end. I think do more of it is it's a good mantra for life and PR in general. So, I mean, I literally could just chat to you for the whole afternoon, but we've both got other shit to do. Yeah. Tom, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Maja. It's been a delight. Oh my God, that's another PR cliche. Yeah, I'm hugely excited to be here. Oh, no, sorry, I should have said that at the beginning. Thank you so much, Tom Berry, MikeWorldWide's. Thanks very much. Thanks, Maja.
You've been listening to the PRovoke podcast, brought to you by PRovoke Media and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers.